The Galactic Council chambers fell silent as the transmission from Kepler 442b crackled through the quantum relays. Ambassador Zethkar's four eyes dilated with what humans had learned to recognize as Altarian fear. "The Devourers have breached our outer defenses," the insectoid alien's voice chittered through the universal translator. 17 colonies are gone. We formally request humanitarian aid from any willing species." Around the circular chamber, representatives from dozens of worlds shifted uncomfortably. The Devourers were a nomadic swarm that had been consuming entire star systems for millennia. No one had ever successfully repelled them. "The Galactic Defense Force has already retreated to the Inner Rim," announced Chancellor Vex, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into prismatic patterns. "We cannot spare military assets for a lost cause." Jack Morrison, Earth's youngest ambassador at 28, stood slowly. His plain military dress uniform looked almost primitive among the elaborate robes and biosuits of his alien colleagues. Beside him, his aide Daisy Chen pulled up tactical displays on her tablet, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "Earth will respond," Jack said simply. A ripple of surprised clicks, hisses, and harmonics filled the chamber. The Corvani representatives' tentacles writhed in what Jack had learned was their equivalent of nervous laughter. "Honored human." Zethkar's voice carried a note of desperate hope mixed with confusion. "We asked for mercy, for evacuation ships, medical supplies, refugee assistance, not warriors." Jack's expression remained stone cold as Daisy whispered coordinates and fleet positions in his ear. "Ambassador Zethkar, you asked the wrong species for mercy. Earth doesn't negotiate with threats to innocent life." 3 days later, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. It wasn't the largest force ever assembled. The humans were still newcomers to galactic politics, but every ship bristled with weaponry that made other species' military engineers lose sleep. Captain Sarah Ironwall Rodriguez commanded the flagship Indomitable from her bridge. Watching as her tactical officer, a young lieutenant who'd earned his stripes in the Proxima incident, coordinated with the other vessels. "Ma'am, we're detecting massive biosignatures throughout the system," he reported. "The Devourer swarm it's bigger than anything in the databases." "Good," Rodriguez replied, her scarred face splitting into a predatory grin. "More targets." On the surface of Kepler 442b, Zethkar and the surviving Altarians huddled in underground bunkers as the sky above them turned into a light show. The human fleet had positioned itself between the planet and the Devourer swarm, outnumbered at least 50 to 1. "They're going to die for us," Zethkar whispered to his aide. "These humans," they came knowing they couldn't win. Above them, Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the tactical display as thousands of bioships converged on their position. Each Devourer vessel was a living creature the size of a skyscraper, armed with plasma organs and protected by chitinous armor that had evolved over millions of years. "Sir," Daisy reported from her station, "all ships report ready. Operation Prometheus is green." Jack nodded to Captain Rodriguez. "Light them up." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The humans didn't retreat. They didn't try to outmaneuver the swarm. Instead, they did something that no species in recorded history had ever attempted against the Devourers. They charged straight into the heart of the swarm. Human weapons technology, forged in the crucible of Earth's violent history, proved devastatingly effective. Kinetic bombardment weapons, simple metal rods accelerated to relativistic speeds, punched through bioarmor like paper. Nuclear missiles, banned by most civilized species as barbarically crude, turned Devourer leviathans into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. But it was the humans themselves that truly shocked the galaxy. When the Resolute lost power and found itself surrounded by a dozen Devourer boarding organisms, its crew didn't surrender. They grabbed pulse rifles and fought hand-to-hand in the corridors, turning every deck into a slaughterhouse. When the Defiant's engines were crippled, her captain rammed the ship directly into the swarm's queen mother, detonating her nuclear payload in a flash that could be seen from 3 systems away. The battle raged for 18 hours. By the end, the space around Kepler 442b was filled with the drifting remains of both fleets. Of the 43 human ships, only 12 remained operational. But the Devourer swarm, The unstoppable force that had consumed 17 worlds was gone. On the planet's surface, Zethkar emerged from the bunkers to find Jack Morrison sitting on a piece of wreckage, field dressing a plasma burn on his arm. Daisy stood nearby, coordinating rescue operations with the efficiency that had made her indispensable. "Why?" Zethkar asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Your people barely know us. You had no strategic interest here. Why did you sacrifice so much?" Jack looked up at the alien, his eyes tired but resolute. "Because you asked for help, and that's what humans do. We protect those who can't protect themselves." Daisy glanced up from her tablet. "Sir, we're receiving communications from 17 other systems. Reports of devourer swarms all requesting immediate assistance." Jack stood, wincing slightly at his wound. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them to mobilize the reserve fleets." He looked at Zethkar one final time. "You thought you were asking Earth for mercy. What you got was something much more valuable. You got humanity's promise that no innocent world stands alone." As rescue ships began arriving from across the galaxy, word of the Battle of Kepler 442b spread through every civilized system. The humans had done the impossible. They had stopped the devourers. But more importantly, they had proven that some species would fight not for conquest or glory, but simply because it was right. The galaxy would never be the same.